Hey, everybody, and welcome once again to the Fart Fetish Podcast in the new year, 2025. We're still that podcast that seeks to find the answers to the what, where, how, and sometimes why of fart fetish, and try to help give a nuanced picture of the people that have fetishes. I'm your host, Raj. Watch for new episodes every first Friday of the month on fartfetishpodcast.com, as well as most major podcast platforms. You can also support me and the show by checking out the ad-supported erotic fart content on thefartcloset.com. And now I'd like to introduce Miss Mae Ling to the podcast. Miss Mae Ling is a professional dominatrix who goes far beyond the typical expectations of her role. She specializes in creating transformative experiences that blend kink with personal growth, challenging clients to confront past traumas, tackle internalized shame, and explore their boundaries in a safe and empowering way. Miss Mae Ling's approach intertwines elements of edge play, including toilet training and ABDL dynamics, with a focus on fostering self-discovery and reframing societal taboos. She offers a refreshing perspective on domination, showing how it can be a tool for connection, self-acceptance, and growth. Let's get right into the Fart Fetish Podcast. Miss Mae Ling, thank you very much for being here. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Thank you so much for having me. A little bit is a little too small. I'm a big personality, so I feel like picking and choosing one little thing to give a snippet of myself is, if I had to narrow it down, I would say I am a fun, high energy individual that loves to boss people around, which has led me to my job.
Super. If you did give a longer intro, like what else would you say about yourself in this question?
A longer intro is that I love curating experiences and making fantasies come true. Not so much making their fantasy come true, but I love twisting and turning it and creating it into like the, Grimm's brother type of fairy tales. We're just like, la di da, oh my God, what the fuck is happening? And then working your way from that and processing all the emotions and having all of your triggers and stuff that has come up from the past and making you face it and realizing that like if you can do this, you can literally do anything.
Wow, that's really great. That's a very positive spin on that kind of work, which I don't think you said it per se, but you, if I'm not mistaken, work as a professional dominatrix. Is that not correct?
I do. I am not saying that because I feel like there's so much more to it. And when you say professional dominatrix, people in the media or vanilla people perceive it as, oh, this person's wearing latex and is whipping people with whips and chains and all that. And I'm like, there's so much more to it, honestly, and everybody's method of how they play is very different as well. Because it could just be hyper fetishized or hyper whatever. I like to bring up everyday situations around the world and make people solve puzzles within themselves to take on and tackle on these issues in their life. So it's like an all-encompassing thing and not just the super sexy 50 Shades of Grey-ish thing.
For sure, for sure. How do you I guess how would you balance that with I definitely agree with the thought that there's more to pro dominatrix and kink and BDSM in general than just latex and leather and being whipped and things like that. But I do think that is a common misconception. How do you balance the expectation of like a client per se in a situation where it sounds like what you offer is maybe a little more educational, which that's not to say it's not sexually arousing, but like it sounds like you have a mission to your domination in a way that maybe it's not just a like paid service, as it were. Can you talk more about that, if that question makes any sense?
Sure. I would say that my website has a pretty good picture of myself and what I want to have with other individuals, a type of connection. It's not just a one off sexual thing. That's not what I want to do a lot of. What I want is ongoing relationships with my submissives that are not just hyper focused on the sexual aspect, but using that sexuality and kinkiness to make them become better people. It motivates them to be better, and it's making it more fun by including this weird, kinky, whatever thing it is. So I like to see it as a like holistic approach, kind of a life coaching domination type of thing.
That's interesting. That's very interesting. Do you find your clients have been receptive and open to that, or do you find more traditional attitudes in terms of what's expected um, of you in this role?
I think the majority of the people that I attract are really receptive to it. And it's not something that's always offered or always given. And even people who have been playing in the industry, seeing other pro doms and whatnot for 20 years come and see me, and they're just like mind blown because of the perspective shift and the change and how different everything is. And it might not be for everybody, but even, not everything has to be for everybody. And I think if you give anything a shot just once, uh, it'll affect you, even if not immediately. Trickling down the line, you'll look back on it and be like, wow, I can see how this has influenced me. And that to me is already like, amazing. That's what I want.
For sure, for sure. Approximately how long have you been doing this type of work?
I've been doing this lifestyle for about 7 years, and then I didn't realize I could make money off of it. And I was sick and tired of my government job. And so I was like, wouldn't it be nice if I could just dominate people for money? And then I looked up online. I was like, I've been doing this all along. And that has been almost 6 years now, 5 years.
That's awesome. That's really great. And I remember what I was going to say. It's actually that in this we live in this time of a lot of varied versions of self-help. So what's to say there couldn't be a valid use for BDSM, pro dom, or what have you, lifestyle type self-help, and like I struggle to maybe say therapy, but like therapeutic um exercising of traumas, or what have you, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, I feel like therapists aren't allowed to tell you what to do. They're there to hold space for you and, somewhat guide you to finding your own answers. And with my background, I am able to tell people exactly what to do, which is
Yeah.
great because it's for their own benefit as well. And so, for example, I have one of my pets, my goldfish, and I told them recently, I want you to take care of yourself like as if you were taking care of me. And that is extremely difficult for some individuals because people are very harsh against themselves. They're like, oh, I didn't earn this. Oh, it's like there's a lot of negative self talk, you know? But if you were to talk to a friend or somebody or your Dom, you would not do that to them at all. If anything, you would be super supportive and helpful. And so I wanted my goldfish to change that mindset. And yeah, because the more kind you are to yourself, the more you're able to do. The more you beat yourself down, the more you're just going to stay in this little rut or hole and be depressed or not, try real hard to get out of.
Yeah, that makes a lot of that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. I love that. That is sounds very very like could be a very positive experience for people.
Hmm.
In the lifestyle space, do you have any fetishes or kinks that you consider your specialities? And that's whether you enjoy them the most or you're the best at exploring them or both.
These are always hilarious to talk about because they are very niche indeed. I would say the one that I am having the most fun with right now is full toilet training. And it's not for everybody. What that is it's me taking a dump on somebody. And everybody's like, oh, if you're a toilet, you have to eat it. You really don't have to eat it. Everybody does different things with everything. So it is poop, and along with it comes a few risks. And everybody, as long as the individual is healthy and everybody knows that, like, what those risks are, I think it's easy and fun to do. Uh, and accompanying that is the ultimate humiliation in my mind right now is being a toilet for both me and my bull. What a bull is an individual who is very well endowed that I have sex with, and other people would be like, oh, I want to have sex with her, but they can't please a woman, or they have too small of a dick, or some sort of within that realm. And so they get to be humiliated or made fun of by watching me have sex with another man. And then we both use this individual as a toilet for whatever fluids or nastiness comes from us.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
I think that's the most intense thing. And then along with that is my wholesome favorite, ABDL, which is adult diapers, adult babies and diaper lovers. And that's just been near and dear to my heart as something so sweet and so innocent, and yet so taken as taboo by people even in the industry. And I just want to repaint the picture of being like, yeah, this is everything we do here is for fun. Everything we do here is to shine a different light and perspective on it. Everything we do here is so that we can let go of our stories and what society says about certain things and reframe and recreate our own happiness from it and our own joy.
That's awesome. That's very awesome. There's a definitely a I think it's slowly, I hope it's slowly decreasing in its rigidness, but it does seem like there is a like an acceptable way of fun, an acceptable way of recreation. And I only say that in terms of like when you go into the BDSM community locally or kink community locally, and then you go back out into the regular world, you kind of see the difference in conversation, freeness, openness, around many topics, not just kink and BDSM, but just in general, a willingness to explore different paradigms, you know, talking poly, talking whatever the case may be, in terms of trying to realize that we don't have to just follow a paradigm that's been set for us through previous, you know, previous people before us. We can set our own path and have our own enjoyment that may not look like other people's enjoyment, may not look like enjoyment at all to other people, such as, you know,
Mhm.
being defecated on. You know, I think a lot of people would be like, how could one enjoy that? But as people you know, who have come on this show will attest to, in terms of farting, which I'm sure is in the same camp for, again, many people, there is a you know, it doesn't necessarily have to be explained or defined why it's that way, but it is that way. Exploring it could be useful, but regardless, as long as it's not hurting anyone, to find your own joy that may not fit a rigid status quo, I think is very good and very healthy for people and ideally society as well.
Absolutely. And I'd like to also point out that even though we're all about open mindedness, even within the lifestyle community, there are people who are like, oh no, I would never do that, or look down upon other fetishes and other kinks. And I'm thinking, that is literally what other people are doing to us right now and what you would do. So you're just passing along the cycle of judgment that is creating like this kind of rumbling, trembling effect that isn't quite helpful, because then it leads to other people judging you, right? And so if we can just all just accept whatever it is with whoever it is and just let them be because it's not injuring anybody else, that would just be the ultimate pathway to happiness and peace for not just kink and the weird stuff that we do, but for politics and everything else in the world.
Gotcha. That makes sense. You when you mentioned diaper play and you didn't explicitly say it, but I took in the idea of like cuckolding from what you talked about with the bull. Um, is there a way these kinks, fetishes, maybe other ones intermingle? You gave us some idea of like the um kind of I don't know, I may be using incorrect terminology, but like the toilet situation with both kind of the cuckolding and the bowl situation. Is that typical, and is there any other like combinations, I suppose, that you could give us an idea about?
I love mixing and matching things. I feel like it's what makes good fashion, right? You take a little bit from this and you take a little bit from that, and it's like kind of breaking the blend of the outfit, but all together it looks fabulous. And so that's what you do with kink as well. You kind of take a little bit from here and there and you just blend it all together and it's magic. So, for an example, you can have somebody wearing a diaper, and it could be a mommy daddy role play, and it could be like, oh hey, we're going to teach you about sex, watch this. And then also, oh no, you pooped your diaper, how embarrassing. If you're going to do that, then you might as well just become our toilet and take both of our shits as well. So that's one example of mixing in together toilet, diapers, and cuckolding all in one.
Nice. Nice. That's very illustrative. I appreciate that. I appreciate your example. Um in terms of like logistics on like a full toilet training session, how easy or difficult is that for you to prepare, both physically and mentally?
At this point in my life, really easy. I am really regular, and so I only do these sessions at a specific time of day, and they must book within those 2 hours. And yeah, it just happens. Mentally, it does not affect me at all. I'm just like, okay, great. I guess I've been doing so much that it's kind of like routine-ish, and everybody takes a dump every day, so it is routine anyways. This time it's just an addition to an individual. The thing that can be tricky is when you have to go at the beginning of the session and they booked you for 2 hours and you're just like, oh my gosh, I can't go immediately because that's the pinnacle peak of everything, right? And with every good story, there must be the hero's journey of like learning lessons and going up to whatever, and then the climax, and then bringing brought down with aftercare. And so I will hold it for a bit in order to draw out that beginning part. And then, yeah, release it all at the end.
That's very noble of you to do. I mean, obviously that's the session that people are engaging, but you know, it's your body being affected in that way. So that's quite a sacrificial is not the word, selfless. That's quite a selfless thing for you to do. I guess maybe the payoff of like, you made me hold this, now I get to dump on you.
Totally.
um if you know or had to guess, what is it about you or your background that makes you open to practicing an edge kink like scat with clients or people or what have you?
Honestly, I've always talked about poop ever since I was ever since I can remember, ever since I was young. I would actually get in trouble for talking about poop at the dinner table. People would be like, "That's so disgusting. Could you stop talking about that?" And I'm like, "Everybody poops every day. Why is it such a bad thing?" And I feel like it's so shunned, right? Like you have to close the toilet. It's an intimate moment. No one wants to see that. It stinks. It's so gross. And again, ever since I was young, I would always poop with the door open because I had FOMO and I didn't want to miss out on what people were doing outside. And so I would try to still be included in the conversation while on the bathroom toilet doing my business. So I think the transition was pretty easy for me. In a sense that, like, yeah, I've always done it. It's always something that I've done with my partners. Is a pretty good litmus test at the beginning is like, can we poop in front of each other? Or are you gonna like not be okay with that? Because if that's not okay with you, we can't be together.
For sure, for sure. I mean, that's that. I mean, it's important, so that makes sense. That makes sense. That it would be a limiting factor for potential partners.
Hmm.
Do you run into any issues practicing these full toilet training sessions?
My issue with it is when I travel, and I travel quite a bit, especially traveling across different time zones. And so what I do is I normally go on tour, especially in DC, Boston area. And so that's 3 hours ahead from what I normally do. And so I have to gauge my different time of when I gotta book it. And some people can only book me for the morning. And so I'm sitting there thinking, oh, how do I induce this? Specifically, since I don't drink coffee. I think that's a very go-to thing for everybody. They're just like, cup of coffee, done. I did my job. But I never drink coffee. And so this is all natural. Me trying to figure out what to eat to get me to pass at an earlier time. Me
Sure.
timing my meal.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, that's the thing. It's a much a much harder to control uh kink, as it were. It's a body function too, but it's a much harder to control kink in that way. Even something like farting, it may not be appreciated by everyone, but it can be hacked, as it were, by blowing air or what have you. um so there is a a cheat to even that fetish, which may be, again, also akin to, oh, how's my body feeling right now? There's really no way to make that one happen, at least as far as I know or heard. So that makes sense that you'd have to kind of hack your body to make it respond the way and when you want it to.
Yeah, I've definitely consulted a few doctors, primarily because a lot of my friends are doctors. And so fiber is definitely the go-to thing that I found to be helpful. And the same thing with farting, honestly, just give me a can of beans and it's like pretty much immediate. Not immediate, but like by the next meal, it'll happen. It's being in tune with your body and knowing where it's at and gauging it
Yeah,
correctly.
absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. And there's a lot of natural medicine traditions that also like are also in that vein as well of like knowing your body. It's kind of just Western medicine that's a bit more like, whatever. We'll just fix you when you're broken, rather than tell you what like to more like preventative or watch out for things. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense that that would be the way to kind of understand your body is kind of, watch it, gauge it, see how it responds, uh, those kind of tests and experiments, as it were.
Yeah, which takes a lot of dedication and like you journaling, writing down what's going on with your body and taking notes on what you're eating and stuff. So, yeah, it's quite a bit of work, but I mean, it is your one and only body. And so, if you want to do something specific, this is how people train for certain things, like athletes. Now I'm seeing it as a competitive pooping thing.
Yeah, no, that makes sense though. That makes sense. Have you had anyone back out of a full toilet training session?
Nobody has backed out of a full toilet training session.
That's great.
Not that I can think of. Yeah. Everybody's, again, you don't have to consume it.
Sure.
So unless they tell me, oh, please force me to, then I'll do it. The one person I actually had back out on something was a forced buy session. And so he's always wanted to suck someone else's cock and has never been able to follow through. And he was like, please, I am really asking you to make me follow through with my dreams. I've been wanting to do this for years, and every Dom that I've seen has not been able to do it. And so I was like, "Ugh, give me a challenge, hell yes." And so I made him do it, and he did it. And after the fact, he literally could not like handle it, grabbed all his clothes, and ran out of the space naked.
Wow.
Yeah. Which I was
Wow.
like, oh my God, I pushed him too far. This is not good. And the next day, I get an email from him thanking me so much for making him do what he's always wanted to do. And he apologized for running out. And I was just like, okay. But yeah, it was just something so strong inside of him that like he wanted to have happen. So I'm happy we
Wow.
did it. I'm happy that he responded and told me, that he finally got it out of his system. And yeah, that's the one time someone ran out for me.
Wow, but that's great. It wasn't even necessarily a bad situation. That's very
I
very
think it
cool. That's great that that came around in such a positive way. I'm glad to hear that.
for sure.
What have been your experiences, and I know this is just kind of your perception, but what has been your experiences around people's feelings towards fetishes such as, full toilet training? Do people express like an acceptance of their fetish, or are you seeing a lot of instances of shame around it, or what's been your experience?
There's a lot of different types of individuals who come into it. So it's either a fetish like, oh, I can only get off if there's poop. There's the people who are like, I want to be humiliated so badly and I've done everything else. This is the worst and most disgusting thing. Please do it. There is the I want to worship you and every single bit of you, even if that means including your shit. There's others who want to mm, do the most intimate act, right? Because sure, you can have sex with people and whatnot. You can people. It's like the most taboo, which is why they get into it. It's like how many people can literally see someone's asshole pucker and something open up wide and have it being released out, and so they're more drawn into the like this is so unique aspect, and they've done everything else type of thing. So it depends on the individual and what their background is coming in from. Um, yeah, as is with every other fetish as well. Really depends on their background.
For
Or
sure.
maybe when they were young, they clicked on a link and they were like, oh my gosh, I've seen it and I can't unseen it. And now it's living in my head forever and now I have to try it.
For sure. No, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, it makes sense too, because even in terms of like, there's almost four different minds, at least, let's say, of like, it's the, um, what you feel about it, just personally, like not in a horny or sexual mode. So what you feel about it, I guess, socially, and what you feel about it sexually. So in some cases, some people may use the shame or what have you as part of their arousal, as part of their, like I want to be tormented and felt like I'm in this small, made to be small and made to be humiliated and degraded. So, they might not necessarily like, oh, I'm shamed that I have a fart fetish, but it is a aspect of using that kind of shame and humiliation as part of their arousal.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes it you make a very good strong point there about the wide variety of um, attitudes, even maybe different attitudes within the same type of feeling. It's like two people feel shame, but they feel it in different ways or about different aspects or for completely different reasons.
Yeah, very much so.
Do you consider or let me just ask you, what do you consider is your most popular kink or fetish that you offer in your repertoire? I wonder personally if it's full toilet training, or what would you say?
I would say it's a tie right now between, and again, it all intermixes as well. That's why it's a tie.
Sure.
It's full toilet training. Sometimes you can combine that with cuckolding, and or the cuckolding can be done with forced by and no toilet training. So I have a lot of individuals who have always wanted to experience what it's like to be on the giving end of a blowjob. And, maybe they've had it before in their life, but it's so taboo and they don't want to be seen as gay. So they come to me as like, as their scapegoat and savior to be like, please make me suck something. And I'm like, great, I have this individual right here who's very well endowed, and you're going to get to experience what it's like. And so it's a mix up of all three of those right now are my most requested, which I love.
That's awesome. That's great. Well, it's great that they align with what you enjoy because, I mean, love what you do, right?
hmm
Do you have any thoughts about what the future might look like in your mind for fetishes like these, especially these edge plays?
With the internet and all that, I feel like things are just getting more and more extreme. And I feel like it's going to swing the pendulum to the most extreme end, and it's going to actually swing back. I feel like once people hit a certain point, they're going to be like, oh, remember the good old days, and just like having an appreciation for kind of the basic low key things that are added into that, and just remembering, oh, we don't have to go hard all the time. There's beauty in the smaller, finer things in life, right? It's not just like doing an adrenaline hit every so often that you do this, because at some point it's just like, is it even that anymore? Like, where have we lost the essence of what it actually is? Like a light whisper in the ear and a hand resting on that throat that could tighten the grip around and make you lose your breath. And all of a sudden, everything gets quiet and louder at the same time. I feel like those moments are super beautiful in the classic BDSM realm, right? But if you just go hard all the time, it's yeah, you kind of just think like, okay, what now? Literally, what more could you do after being defecated on?
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. That's a very good point. And if I extrapolate on what you're talking about, to me, I see that as kind of like, and I hope it does come to pass, kind of the rediscovering of what it is to be human, because I feel like a lot of people, and not just kink and BDSM, I think people in general have become very withdrawn from the kind of human aspects, the simplicity aspects of a touch and a feel, and just an expression, a hug of connection that is uh I don't know. I feel like they're not as valued in a mainstream society. They're not discussed in something to attain. You know, everything is, you know, career focused, what do you call it? Hustle focused, in terms of like making your passions your, you know, your career or whatever. Like everything is so focused on commodification and monetization, that I think a lot of the value of what people offer as just human beings themselves is kind of lost on a lot of people. And I'm hoping, with what you're talking about, and you know, similar ideas around the nation and globe, that people rediscover kind of that the simplicity of just existence and just being, and that everything doesn't have to be a pursuit, or like everything doesn't have to have an end goal, I guess, or like an ultimate goal.
Absolutely. I feel like, especially this day and age where social media is what a lot of people's go-to thing for their downtime, which is more draining than energizing. Because you're looking at, oh, I'm not, you start comparing yourself, oh, I don't have that, or I don't have as many likes. But if you really just called up your friend and talked to one person for what, 10 minutes, you would feel so much incredibly better. And, or going somewhere and cuddling with your friends, getting that actual physical touch, having a hug from somebody, you know, having someone pet your hair. It just means so much more. And yet, nowadays, are more driven to be alone and apart, and we're using our technology to try to get more connected with individuals. But I feel like it only increases your sense of loneliness even more so.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I agree. There's definitely a lot to talk about in that space for sure. A lot to hopefully, you know, I know articles have come out and stuff, and hopefully that will become more and more apparent to people as time goes on. What do you like to do when you're not working as a you know, in the lifestyle space?
Mm, I love this question because I feel like when you're in this space, everybody just wants to talk about what you do, and then you kind of get objectified as like this fetish individual.
Certainly.
But for a more holistic image of myself, I love moving my body and doing weird stuff with it, like circus training, acrobatics, aerial arts. I love, I'm learning how to spin fire, which has been incredibly meditative and really scary.
Mm.
Um, and honestly, I love wrestling big dogs, humans as well. But that's also can be a fetish. But like, give me 100-pound dog, and I'll just like get on my hands and knees and just like wrestle with them.
That's awesome. That's really great. And you mentioned that's a good point about I mean, that's why that's why this podcast exists, to give a more holistic picture of fetishes as well. So I appreciate you you saying that and picking up on that, because it is the importance of kind of why, I mean, why I do this, to help give people a sense that, you know, it's not just a fetish for people, you know, all the people that are involved in this kink and BDSM, they're whole people, and they have whole lives, and they have jobs, and they enjoy video games, or they enjoy this and that, or whatever the case may be. And I think that's really important for people to pick up on, if they're willing to come on to listen.
Mhm. Yeah. Your job is only a small snippet of who you are, and it shouldn't be there as a defining feature of you and what you do in your life. It should act as a support system so that you are being a better you, which is a happier you.
Absolutely. That's a great point. Yeah, your job should just facilitate the things you want to do, whatever your passions are. And if you're passionate about your job, great. But,
Yeah.
even if you're passionate about your job, there should be definitely more to you than that, because that can be destructive in its own way, to be so work
Absolutely.
focused. But that is great if that you have that fortunateness to enjoy what you do for work as well. Do you have an ultimate goal in mind, whether it's for your industry or just for yourself, something beyond?
My recent goal that I've reached to, I actually took a little break to reconsider my business model, and it's that I want to become a certified life coach and blend it in with domination. And so that's something I'm going to start up next year and completely change my business model. So it includes a more holistic approach and getting to know my clients on a deeper level, my subs on a deeper level, and not just every time we play, but like holding them accountable for their lives as well and what they say and their goals and what they want to do, and ensuring that they get there and using kink as a great reward for it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. That's great. That's great. I wish you the best of luck with pursuing that. I'm sure you're going to do great
Thank you.
with that. Um, I am coming to the kind of the end of my last few questions here, but I do want to take this moment to thank you once again for coming on and spending this time with us. It's really been a very enlightening and interesting, enjoyable conversation. And yeah, I cannot thank you enough.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's absolutely my pleasure. As someone who works in the lifestyle space, can you tell us what kind of approach do you most appreciate from potential subs or clients? Like, how should one address you, message you if they wanted to like reach out with intention?
Mm, what a good question. And I think that last part is the key thing, right? Is first of all, knowing what your intentions are. I feel like a
Yes,
lot of people reach out and they don't know what they want. And when you don't know what you want and you can't convey that, I'm not going to know what you want. And so it gets kind of messy, and I don't want to put in the extra work to try to figure it out. You should already have a sense. It doesn't have to be completely 100% true, but have an idea of what you want. Verbalize that, but don't come at me with the sense of like, I want you to do this to me. It's like, hey, I have this idea. How can we work together and collaborate and create something magical together? Because I am not here to do things for others as a femdom, as a female dominant. I am here to do things that ultimately please myself. And if individuals get that, then it's going to be a super beautiful thing. And it's going to be a lovely dynamic that we're going to have that's going to blossom. But the most important thing is knowing what you want first, which I would say to any dom or any submissive, anybody at all. You can't just go up to there. It's like ordering food, honestly. You go to a restaurant and you're just like, I'm hungry. Great. Do you know what you want though? What do you want to eat? Here's our menu. And they're just like, I'm hungry. I'm like, oh my God, I can't help you.
that's great. That's a great analogy. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Do you not to belabor the point, but do you find a lot of people do contact you without a specific intention, or do you find more people are on the more with it a train?
It depends on what platform. If they're like emailing me or they are filling out an application, then yes, they know what they want. If they're finding me on social media or they're finding me through other platforms, like loyal fans or something like that, everybody on there is just like, I want you to be my mistress. I want you to dominate me. Can I be your slave? Are the top three things that people say over and over and over. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, it gets old after years of hearing the same thing because you ultimately need to know what that looks like for you. And even if you are new to BDSM and kink and whatnot, do the research or at least tell me, hey, I'm new to this and I want to experience something with you. How can you guide me to what the possibilities are or what is even an option, you know? Ask for clarity, ask for certain things. Don't just say, hey, you're hot, dominate me. Like, that's not going to get you anywhere.
Absolutely. No, it makes a lot of sense. And that's a great point. Definitely why I wanted to bring the question up. Even in the, like, one of the guests who have been on a couple times is on OnlyFans, but also on social media and stuff. And he's
Mhm.
complained about just the constant, like, just getting one word messages like, hey, and it's like,
Yeah.
what am I supposed to do with that? Like, and it's a joke from even the, dating scene as well. But like, it's yeah, people somehow don't have an idea. They just like, I would like to talk to this person, but I have nothing specific I'd want to say, or I didn't think about it, so I'm just gonna say hey and put the ball in their court as if like, they're dying to talk to me or whatever.
And I wrote a whole blog post about how to communicate with somebody in this space, right? Which is like, find out what about this individual you guys have in common. Because once you have that something in common, you can lead with that. Like, oh wow, she likes Pokemon. I like Pokemon too. We can start talking about Pokemon, and then like, who knows? She can start role playing with the Pokemons, and you could be a Pokemon and whatnot. Something like that. Or like knowing the time and space of when to reach out to an individual. We are all humans here. We eat, we sleep. This is not what we do all the time. And some people don't understand that. And some people will just be like, hey, you should be responding to every single message at every single given time, even though there is different time zones. But you are here, should be available 24/7 for my needs and my kinks. And I'm like, okay, stranger that I've never really met before, but you sent me $5 like, this is not gonna work.
Absolutely. That almost gives credence, not that I'm saying giving it credence, but it almost gives credence to that, like, more people in the lifestyle doing like AI bots of themselves. It's like, okay, yeah, you can talk to my AI bot, deal with that.
If
Um,
that's what you
yeah,
want, if that type of immediacy, if that instant gratification is what you want, go for it. Talk to that AI bot. Great. You know, everybody's winning at that point, but just be clear about it. And so the people know that they are talking to AI bot. But
precisely.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'm here for the real human connection. And real humans sleep, eat, and do other things and have hobbies.
definitely, definitely. Yeah, that is very important. It's good, healthy humans
Yeah.
do have a do have a life outside of their work or whatever the case may be.
hmm And I get it because a lot of the people work 9 to 5s, right? And so they expect you to be like, oh, I'm finally off of work. They should be available. But honestly, we also have friends and family who work 9 to 5. And so we then go see them afterwards, right? So it's not all the time that's available.
Of course, of course. And yeah, it is really just seeing, everyone as another human being, as like someone who has, the same commitments, social circles, whatever the case may be. They have these things that take up their time just as whoever is trying to engage you has them as well. Whatever was keeping them from talking to you at an earlier time, may be a factor in your life as well. And I think that's the kind of lacking empathy, lacking humanity that hopefully is improving, as we kind of touched on earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Where is the best place for people to find you, get in touch with you? What forms of communication or venues of communication do you prefer?
Everybody can find me on my website, missmaeling.com, MISSMAELING. And from there, it'll lead you to all of my clip stores. It'll lead you to my loyal fans where you can chat with me. It'll lead you to um, all my blog posts, all the goodies in my social media and whatnot. But if you ultimately want to get a hold of me, the best way would be to fill out my application that's on my website. That I see personally. And I'll see you soon.
That's awesome. That's really great. Miss Mae Ling, I cannot thank you enough once again for taking this time and really enlightening us to um yeah, a lot of your lifestyle world and a lot of yourself as well. It's been an enjoyable experience getting to know you, and I hope you'll come and see us again on the show soon.
I really appreciate Raj. This is such a fun podcast, and it's been a delight to speak with you. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.